So I woke up Sunday morning. You'd have been proud of me. I had the greatest intentions. I intended to go for this incredible 5 mile run. I've been a little under the weather. I'm like, I'm going to make up for it, go for this long run. I spent an hour Saturday night working on my playlist. I started with Sunglasses at Night, Living on a Prayer, In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. There were some Backstreet Boys in there. I'm a fan. Then, in honor of my kids, we had a band, Trolls Together. Perfect, 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 100%. I had the list. I even threw in some Eric B. and Rakim and NWA, Straight Outta Compton. Like, I was so ready to run, you have no idea. And then, like, something awful happened. Despite my intentions to run, I noticed the night before my kids went to this Halloween party, and I did something terrible. I looked to see if there was something in there, and there was. And guess what? Despite my intentions to run, minutes later, gone. I mean, Kit Kats. I was wondering why the father couldn't throw in a Snickers. God forbid. I don't even like Almond Joy, but I threw one of those babies down too. Don't even like them. Polished through it. Reese's, that's a wrap. Didn't intend to eat the candy. Intended to run. You know who didn't care about my intentions? My waistline. And when I went to Los Angeles yesterday to do Soft White Underbelly, a podcast with like nearly 7 million subscribers, and part of me thought, I wish I got that running. Maybe my cheeks would be a little leaner, which leads to this ridiculous idea. I'm getting texts, I'm getting emails from people that I don't know. That means I'm triggering some people. I don't mean to. I'm simply telling you the truth from someone who surrendered to federal prison in 2008, served 388 days, learned a lot of lessons. And to the extent that I could share them with all of you, I'm going to, knowing that some are going to find value and some are not. So when I get messages about Letitia James, which I will discuss in this video, along with how she actually could have engaged in this conduct, despite not having bad intentions, like I didn't need the Twizzlers, you're going to understand how these things happen, leading with bad intentions. The prosecutors do not care about intentions. All they care about is the actual result. Too many people have intentions not to do anything wrong, yet there they are. So we need to throw that aside, because as a prosecutor, I can assure you, when she was assessing who to indict, who to investigate, she wasn't focused on the intentions. I plan to run, or this person did not intend to break the law. All I am trained to do as a prosecutor is look at the result. That's one. Two, before I get into this fraud triangle, messages like this never would have been brought in a different district. Do you recognize how common that is? That cases that are brought, for example, in the Central District of New York might not be brought in the Eastern District of California, that I have had cases in Kentucky, in California, Virginia, Louisiana, Mississippi, that would never be picked up in New York because they have so many more high-profile white-collar crime cases in the epicenter of the world. Do you not recognize that argument that this would not have been brought in a different district? Thank you. I know that. Prosecutors have discretion. And when people claim it's political, that tells me they are not willing to look within and recognize that you have a prosecutor asking people to do what she is incapable of doing. That is what I think this case is about. And I propose that I would be conveying the same message to you, whether it was a Democrat or a Republican. I do not want people telling us to do what they are incapable of doing. For example, that Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator from Rhode Island, all about diversity and equity, right? Holding people accountable, the inequities in this country, yet it was proven he was a member of an all-white club. And rather than sell his membership or get rid of it or denounce them, he transferred ownership of the interest to his wife. Didn't sell it, it's in his wife's name, under the idea that's fine, he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Do not ask us to do what you are incapable of doing. Let's transition into good old white-collar crime, which is something I've studied since I went to prison in 2008, and how good people who do not have bad intentions serve time on the wrong side of prison boundaries. There is a common phrase in the white-collar crime world called the fraud triangle: pressure, rationalization, and opportunity. And rather than get into the politics of the don't care, I want to teach and help you understand how people who do not have bad intentions end up with their name versus the United States of America, and someday could stand for count and visit with their family in prison. Pressure. I'll break it down for her. Then I'll give you an example from my case. And then you can think about your own life, pressures that you have faced, rationalizations that you have given into. But herein lies the difference when I talk about the triangle, the difference between you and me. When I was a defendant in 2005, I became a defendant because I gave in to temptation. I seized a criminal opportunity that someday led me to prison. James may be on that same track. So the difference between you and me is, as a human, we all face pressure and we may rationalize that pressure. The difference is some people like me seize the opportunity and endure the lifelong stain of a felony conviction. And to the extent that I could share lessons so you do not seize that opportunity, you will be better. And I'm thankful that you're here at the White Collar Advice community. If you find value, like and subscribe. Forgive my voice. I've been speaking since like 4 a.m. this morning. Let's get through this together. So let's quickly go through this case quickly because it's been covered ad nauseam. Is it nausea or nauseam? Who cares? We know that she is facing a federal indictment because prosecutors allege that back in 2020, she bought a house for $137,000 and she took out a $109,600 mortgage backed by Fannie Mae. To get a better rate, she signed what's called a second home rider. Basically, that means I'll live here part-time. I ain't going to rent this thing out. That little promise drops the interest rate. That little statement drops the interest rate. But according to the indictment, she didn't live there. She rented it out. And for 4 straight years, she listed it on her ethics form as an investment property. On her taxes, she reported rental income and took deductions. So she's got one story to the bank, another story to the state, and another to the IRS. And that's what they call, according to the prosecutors in Virginia, bank fraud, misrepresenting how you'll use the property to get a benefit you shouldn't have. Now, the alleged loss amount, $18,900 over the life of the loan. Not huge, not massive in the world of white collar crime, certainly not the things that I've come across. But again, according to the government, it's fraud. She said something to get a lower interest rate. And again, because she holds herself on a pedestal and expects people to live perfectly, because she's perfect, perfect, 100%. That's a song I was going to listen to. It's a great song. My kids and I love it. It's part of the problem here and part of the rage that is being thrown at her. Let's talk about some of these pressures that she faced, and then we'll break it down in practical terms, because it's not always easy to identify the pressure. Okay. What's some of the pressures that she could have faced here? Well, I'm working hard. I might not make a ton of money as a government employee. I'm out for social justice and I'm doing my best, but I might not make like a ton of money here. I haven't gotten a raise and I don't really feel that appreciated. And I'm reaching a point where I should begin to acquire more assets. And this is kind of an opportunity, to do that. So there's this pressure to acquire, to save, to invest, right? She's not always going to be a prosecutor. At some point, she's going to retire, and rental income or assets are a very good thing. So all of us face this pressure in life to deal with some acquiring. In my case, for example, when I was a broker and what led me to prison, I got a very significant bonus from UBS in Century City. That bonus expected me to produce. With that bonus came pressure to hit my numbers, pressure to be at the top of the leaderboard, pressure to justify the bonus they gave me, pressure to make money, pressure to live the lifestyle I thought I should have at 26, as dumb as that sounds. I hadn't earned it. At 26, with this big bonus, we all face pressure. She faced pressure, and the government is alleging simply by checking this box, succumbing to this pressure, she got a better rate. And a big rationalization as we move to the second prong of the fraud triangle. Are you with me on the white collar crime stuff, people? You can never go to prison unless you see some opportunity. The opportunity for her was filling out this application, rationalizing, it's just paperwork, it's just a technicality. I'll fix it later. Like next week, I'm going to send a letter that says it really isn't this or that after the work has already been done. That's the rationalization. I'm going to fix it. It's just a technicality. Nobody's going to notice. It's not that much money. Yeah, 19 grand is not that much money, but you're a prosecutor who hold people to that same standard. The rationalization in my case, so you understand how the triangle works. What was the rationalization for me? Well, I rationalize I work in a wretched industry. I rationalize if I didn't hit my numbers somehow, some way, UBS is going to fire me. I rationalize they kind of want me to take some shortcuts. Therefore, I'm going to do it to prove worthy of this bonus. Pressure to hit my numbers, rationalize this is the way the brokerage industry works. I presume a lot of you feel that way in your business, but here, of course, is the opportunity. And the opportunity is what got her into a lot of trouble. It's really very simple. She filled out a loan application and saw a way to benefit from it. You cannot get into trouble without seizing this opportunity. She checked the box that said second home, signed the rider, and nobody's ever going to show up or see how the house is being used. And even if they did, it's 19 grand. It's not that big a deal. Banks aren't going to go check. It's a rounding error. It's absolutely nothing. Pressure to perhaps save some money, rationalizing that it's harmless, opportunity to fill out the form and to get away with it. And before you know it, years go by. It's absolutely not a problem. In my case, the opportunity was working with a fraudulent hedge fund manager that was lying about his returns. I learned that he was lying about his returns, and rather than stop the fraud, I turned the other way for money. When people have asked, why did I go to prison? Essentially, at my sentencing hearing, Judge Wilson said, I'm tired of salesmen turning the other way for money. Most don't get caught. You did. I'm going to make an example out of you and send you to prison for 18 months. The fraud triangle. Nobody gets into pressure without the fraud triangle. And now you have a scenario where, unfortunately, she is given very little thought or consideration to actually trying to make amends for the triangle that she gave into. Rather than say, I absolutely filled this mortgage application out incorrectly. And as a result of it, there's a $19,000 loss. Can I pay the money back? What can I do to make amends? Paying the money back may not absolve me of the responsibility, but certainly it's the right thing to do. Instead, it was a mistake and the wretched statement that I continue to hear again and again and again. I did not have bad intentions. To the person that left me a vicious, hate-filled message that said I am sensationalizing this case and I'm looking to exploit James for my own benefit. And if anything, as someone who has been to prison, I should have more sympathy for her because I've been to prison. Let me remind you of something you did not address in that lengthy, hate-filled voice message you left me while I was in Santa Monica yesterday. You did not think to say anything about our brothers in prison who too were there without having bad intentions, without recognizing prosecutors like James not caring about intentions, only focused on the end result of their conduct. And in so doing, they indict them, they send them to prison, they ruin families. Knowing this person who left me that voice message, how many of these should be handled civilly, not criminally, didn't focus on the guys with whom you serve time. Kind of sounds like Stockholm syndrome a little bit. You like identify more with the people that hold us captive rather than with whom we serve time. Part of the issue here is nobody wants to accept responsibility. Certainly she doesn't. And when people argue it is political, it's only political because they lean left. That's why they justify and excuse her actions without recognizing as a prosecutor, you were supposed to be held to a higher standard. And based on what I've seen, even though someone leaves a comment, it's not that much money. When is $19,000 suddenly not a lot of money? I think it's a lot of money. I really do. And I know someone will eventually watch this video and think to themselves, you know, I'm really proud of who I am as a person. I feel pressure every single day to support my family, to get a raise, to be told thank you, to get an appreciation from work. I value you. I've been here a long time. Give me that raise. Some of you get it, some of you do not. Some of you get an I thank you. Some of you get a thank you, some of you do not. But you endure and you still go every single day. Some of you may even rationalize what it's like, that it's not fair. I don't know the right people. I'm not getting ahead. I don't have the right education. They're taking advantage of me. I'm a pleaser. I can't say no. This is what happens. You may rationalize that it's not fair. But herein lies the difference. I'll close how I opened. People like James and me, if convicted, and certainly she has the presumption of innocence, and this is going to go to trial. There ain't going to be no plea deal. She has the presumption of innocence. There's no doubt. But if she goes to trial and is convicted by a jury of her peers, and she gets the same treatment she gave to others that she brought to trial, here's where James and I will be 100% aligned. And she will be 100% aligned with people if she goes to prison or anyone as part of the felon class who pleads guilty or is convicted. And it's the difference between all of you who choose to be law-abiding despite the pressures we all face. When James and me saw an opportunity, we seized it. We knew right from wrong, but you'll find right from wrong doesn't often stop us from succumbing to temptation and making really bad decisions. We get caught in the moment. We're short sighted. We rationalize. We convince ourselves no one's going to find out. And if someone left a comment, it's not that much money. Yeah, that's exactly what she said to herself. It's not that much money. I'll correct it down the road. And here we are with an indictment and her continuing to do media. I mean, if there's one person who is incapable of listening to her lawyer, it's her doing media as a victim, blaming, excusing. At one point, I want someone to finally say, at one point, I accept responsibility for what I did. She could say, I don't think it's criminal. I don't even think this should have been brought civilly. But in retrospect, it wasn't meaningless. It wasn't insignificant. It wasn't not a lot of money. As a prosecutor, I should be held to a higher standard. I should pay the money back. If there's interest and if there's a civil consequence that follows, I will accept all of it. She should have done that before an indictment. But instead, you have blaming, excusing. And I will tell you, it is a terrible way to live. It is a terrible, terrible way to live as a victim. It's awful. It's the worst thing. When I went to prison in 2008 as a victim, blaming other people, excusing my conduct, it's like I was going to be in prison for the rest of my life because nothing was my fault. And it wasn't until I found a mentor and began to write and think and create and introspect and recognize I alone am responsible for my own life. That's where she needs to get, because here's the problems that could follow for her or any defendant. She's convicted, doesn't accept responsibility despite the evidence. I don't think she goes to prison, home confinement, probation. Then again, that Marilyn Mosby, that top prosecutor for Maryland, got some prison time. She was hoping for a pardon or clemency from Biden she didn't get. She comes home, but she's still the victim. 3 years from now, she's still the victim. 5 years from now, she writes a book where she's still the victim. Political persecution from someone out to get her because she was doing her job lawfully, and as retribution, they came and got her. 10 years from now, she's still the victim. 20 years from now, she's still the victim. 30 years from now, she's still the victim. When we're all dead and gone, someone's going to read it and say she was a victim. It's no way to live. The only way to live, if convicted, is for her to finally say, I made bad decisions. I didn't fully consider how filling out this form would influence my life, the way that I am perceived, the influence on the mortgage industry, this bank, the fact that they lost money. I did not have bad intentions to defraud, like I didn't have intentions to eat the candy. I meant to go for a 5-mile run. Cheeks didn't care. Waistline doesn't care about the intentions. I know how I feel. When she can say that, her life will get better. When any defendant, because if you're here in the white collar advice community, it's because you're immersed in a government investigation, and there's a very good chance you may go to prison. You may get sentenced. And the rest of your life will be different. It's awful. It doesn't have to be. There can be a lot of meaning to find through this experience, but not if you're a victim. If you take the bait, right? Oh, yeah, no, you got screwed. Yeah, it was a raw deal. I got you. Seeking sympathy, looking for a way out. Taking the bait is no way to live. Healing can really begin when you accept responsibility. And you say, I'm going to do better, and here's how I'm going to hold you accountable. And given her skill set and education and influence, what she could do if she wanted to is what so many people who have traversed this criminal justice system have done. She used to get paid to lock people up. Maybe as a result of this experience, she could use it as an asset to help people traversing this system. She knows better than anyone how many millions of people are in prisons and jails, that it renders failures of so many. Recidivism rates in New York, California, federal recidivism rates, how many people go to prison, get out, go back to prison, get out, go back to prison. Like, she was a part of that cycle of sending people to prison, and these people emerge without values and skills because they've had, she could help change that. She absolutely could say, I'm beginning to find some meaning through this. And I want to help those who I never really thought much about, criminals that I used to send to prison. But when you see it from her perspective, not as a prosecutor, but rather as a defendant, there is an eye-opening experience. Like I told the gentleman at Soft White Underbelly, I never thought about prison before I went to prison. My approach would have been, they're criminals, lock them up, they're in prison for a reason. There is a bias that exists when it's your name versus the government. When you were in prison, you must have done something. You are a bad person. But then guess what? You get there and you realize someone like James or me, we recognize some of these people didn't have opportunities that we squandered and took for granted. You could argue with my background in education and upbringing, prison should not have been a part of my life trajectory. That there I was. So I wanted to find some meaning through the experience. So could she. It's impressive what she accomplished. Regardless of how you feel for her, she got to a level through hard work, discipline, and commitment over a sustained period of time. I would love for her to route that energy in the direction of helping people that she once locked up and sent away. But it will all be easier. It will all be easier when she gets away from I didn't have bad intentions. Instead, as a result of these bad choices, a bank lost $19,000. I knew better as a prosecutor. I do not want anyone to treat me differently than I expected someone. I don't want to do that. There is no two-tiered system of justice. I am no different. When she does that, she'll be on her way to a better outcome, and she will be on her way to not being a victim for the rest of her life. I hope she takes the advice. Her family's watching. Bye-bye.